This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Welcome to the Glazov gang. Joining me today is the man himself, the founder and the chairman of the board.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the Glazov gang. And tonight, right back at Daniel Greenfield. Welcome to the show. And ladies and gentlemen, Daniel is a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center and the editor of the blog, The Point, at frontpagemag.com. And of course, as the editor, he is the writer there. Daniel, welcome to the Glazov gang.
Thank you for having me on.
Fascinating article the other day at frontpagemag.com. Thank you so much, Daniel. The Death of Europe. How the Mohammed retirement plan will kill Europe. Fascinating article, as are all your articles. I had to bring you back to discuss it. Daniel, the plan to save European values depends on killing European values. One of your points in your article, what did you mean by that?
Right now, the argument being made by Merkel, by other European leaders in favor of the mass Muslim migration, is that it's necessary for European values. Now, these same European values, tolerance, of course, aren't shared by the new incoming migrants. So to preserve these European values requires killing European values. Beyond that, there's, of course, the larger economic question. Europe has a very aging population. It needs a younger workforce. A sizable portion of the Europeans chose work. They chose the good life over raising a family. Now they're being promised that these new incoming migrants will fix all these problems by becoming the workforce, even though Muslims in Germany are largely unemployed.
Okay, now I'm just going to state a couple of your, Daniel, I have to tell you, almost every sentence you write is just magnificent, beautiful, profound. So I'm going to read a couple of your sentences and your points summarized, and then at the risk of repetition to our audience, perhaps just narrow back in on a theme. You write that the problem isn't one of modernization, it's medievalization.
Right now, they're importing a largely medieval population that's culturally medieval, and that also that its belief system is medieval. They're not going to adapt to these ideas of a modern Europe. They're not going to modernize Europe's economy. They're not going to be able to maintain a modern economy because their idea of the economy is very different. First of all, Europe needs to maintain this kind of socialist framework, this cradle-to-grave socialist state. They're not invested in that. Their central economic unit is the family, it's the clan. That's what they're coming there to do. They're going to sponge off the welfare state. They're going to take in as much of it as they can just to maintain their core unit. They're not invested in the larger country and its economic system, its pensions, and all the rest of it.
You write, Mohammed is Fritz's retirement plan, but Mohammed has a very different type of plan.
The central unit, as I've said, is the family, which means that their retirement plan, their cultural retirement plan, is having a lot of children. So if you're a European, you don't think about having children to take care of you in your old age because the state is supposed to take care of you in your old age. Of course, if you're a Muslim immigrant, you don't think that the state is going to take care of you in your old age. You have a lot of children, and of course, this is financed by the taxpayers. It's financed by Fritz. It's financed by the native Europeans. The plan there is that Muhammad is then supposed to take care of Fritz, but in reality, Muhammad is going to take care of himself. He's going to have kids who are going to take care of him, and Fritz is going to pay for it all.
Let me use an image here, I guess. Let's say you have an elderly leftist sitting in an attic of a house, and he needs people to help him downstairs. And he's decided to bring in a whole bunch of immigrants from the Muslim world thinking that they're going to help downstairs. But they're actually coming in with sledgehammers and they're going to destroy the entire house. He is being told this, and every fact is telling him that this is what's going to happen, but he continues to believe that they will come and help fix and work downstairs.
That's exactly right. It's a perfect image.
Am I good at these images, or? Now,
Fantastic.
okay, thank you, Daniel. Now, What's the psychology of the guy that is being told that his house will be destroyed, but he still insists on bringing in these immigrants from the Middle East?
Well, for one thing, he's being lied to about the outcome of it, but he still has to believe it because he's invested in it. The alternative would be to fundamentally change the system, which he isn't ready to do. He still wants what he's been promised, which is the magic socialist pony. He wants this kind of lifestyle where he's going to retire early and where somebody else is going to take responsibility for this. But Europe's own economy made that impossible because they had too few children. We're running into that to some extent, but not to the extent that they are. So they made certain choices, and they're still trying to maintain those choices by bringing in large numbers of Muslims, even though it's suicide, because a lot of people would rather destroy themselves than really reevaluate their lives and their choices.
And so, Daniel, the image of Bolsheviks chanting, "Stalin, Stalin," on their way to their executions ordered by Stalin.
Yeah, that's exactly correct, because again, people don't really tend to reevaluate their choices, even necessarily in the face of death. It takes personal moral courage to do that, to look back on your life and say, I was wrong. And a lot of people had trouble saying it. A lot of people in the Soviet Union had trouble saying it. There were people who went to the gulags, they came back and they would say, the familiar slogan, if only Stalin knew, because they want to believe.
Yeah. Well, we even have these radical feminists that go to Gaza to help the jihadis there against the Israelis, and they get raped inside the Palestinian death cult that they're worshiping.
It's insane. Christopher Caldwell had a great conclusion to his piece on the Muslim migration to Europe, where he described a woman in Austria with Gloria Steinem's slogan, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, handing out flyers for refugees. I mean, what is the future here going to be?
Crazy what the leftist utopian virus is. Daniel, so let's sum up here. You write, European values are in conflict with European survival. European values require that Europe commits suicide. So we have a continent whose belief system necessitates its own death.
The left's values in general, taken to their logical conclusion, are a suicide pact. For example, in the United States, if you take their values to the conclusion about logical conclusion about fighting terrorism, we have to destroy ourselves rather than violate our values. The same expectation is made of Israel. Israel needs to appease the terrorists. It should destroy itself to promote whatever the left claims its values are. The same thing is happening in Europe. The left's values are ultimately a suicide pact. They're an economic suicide pact. They're a social suicide pact, and they're a national security suicide pact.
Let's look at some of the specifics you brought up, horrifying specifics in your article, The Death of Europe. Everybody go read that at frontpagemag.com. You write, Sweden will take in 180,000 migrants this year. Germany may take in 1.5 million. Most of them will be young men following the Mohammed retirement plan. Daniel, these are huge numbers.
They are huge numbers, and they basically mean that these countries will be erased. It's going to happen even faster in the Balkans, but Sweden certainly can't sustain those kinds of numbers, especially if you consider the demographics. These are aging countries, which means and this is a largely young male population, so they're going to displace very quickly. They're going to achieve demographic parity very quickly in the young male age group.
Daniel, please summarize the death of Europe.
The death of Europe is what happens when a continent, when countries, when peoples lose touch with their own survival, and they accept values that require them to destroy themselves in order to live up to some destructive ideal. That's what we're seeing now, and there's a failure to turn back, to reevaluate, to say, what we're doing is wrong, what we're doing will kill us, it will kill our children, it will kill our future.
Daniel, what does it mean for North America?
Well, we've seen something similar with the border crisis before, but there is the possibility, obviously, of Muslims showing up. We've seen even al-Qaeda terrorists cross the southern border. With the new Canadian government, we're going to have generous asylum policies to the north of us. So the possibility that the same thing will happen to us, that millions of people will show up and just walk through, and that there'll be Muslims for that matter, is a very real possibility. And if our leaders don't commit to the nation, they don't commit to the people, they don't commit to the future, but they continue maintaining these destructive ideas, these destructive left-wing ideas, then we may face our own dark periods.
Daniel, my family escaped from the Soviet Union. I escaped with them as a little boy. Where will be there to escape to if this disaster comes to our continent?
Well, I believe, as Ronald Reagan said, we're the last opportunity for freedom. If freedom fails here, there's nowhere else to go. That is unfortunately very true. It's what we have to fight. There's no backup plan. There's no second option.
Oh boy. Daniel Greenfield, thank you so much for your courage and your wisdom and your nobility. Thank you for your blog, The Point, and thank you for joining the Glazov gang.
Thank you for having me on again.
Thank you. And all of our viewers, if you like this program, go to jamieglazov.com and support us. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you next week on the Glazov gang. Good night.